23 hours a day. Alone. In a cell smaller than most parking spaces. For years. This is the reality for inmates in the Netherlands' most secure prison, a facility that holds fewer than 30 men in conditions so extreme, human rights organizations have called them psychological torture. But who are these men? What did they do to deserve this level of isolation? And perhaps more disturbing, is this punishment, or something worse? You might think a country known for bicycles, tulips, and tolerance would take a softer approach to justice. You'd be wrong. PI Vught isn't just a prison. It's a fortress built to contain the men the Dutch government has deemed too dangerous for conventional incarceration. But can even these walls hold what's inside? Located 80 kilometers south of Amsterdam, this maximum security complex houses 550 inmates. According to official records, they include organized crime bosses still running operations from behind bars, convicted terrorists, and multiple murderers whose cases made international headlines. In the flat, orderly landscape of the southern Netherlands, where bicycle paths wind through meticulously maintained towns and centuries-old churches stand as testaments to Dutch civility, there exists a structure that represents the absolute opposite of freedom. This is PI Vught. And this is what happens when one of Europe's most progressive nations decides that some criminals require measures most people will never see, and fewer will ever escape. In the flat, orderly landscape of the southern Netherlands, where bicycle paths wind through meticulously maintained towns and centuries-old churches stand as testaments to Dutch civility, there exists a structure that represents the absolute opposite of freedom. Penitentiaire Inrichting Vught, known simply as PI Vught, is not just another prison. It is the Netherlands' most secure detention facility, a maximum security fortress designed to hold individuals the Dutch justice system has deemed too dangerous for conventional incarceration. Located in the municipality of Vught, approximately 80 kilometers south of Amsterdam, this institution operates behind walls that few will ever see from the inside and even fewer will ever leave. According to official Dutch Custodial Institutions Agency records, PI Vught houses approximately 550 inmates, but these numbers tell only part of the story. Within its perimeter exist multiple security classifications, specialized units, and a regime so strict that it has drawn attention from human rights organizations across Europe. The facility's history stretches back to 1959, when it was constructed to address the growing need for high-security detention in post-war Netherlands. But the institution that exists today bears little resemblance to its original incarnation. Multiple expansions, technological upgrades, and architectural modifications have transformed PI Vught into what security experts describe as one of Europe's most sophisticated prison complexes. The facility encompasses multiple buildings, each serving distinct functions within the broader correctional ecosystem, connected by underground passages and secured by surveillance systems that monitor every square meter of the grounds. What sets PI Vught apart from standard correctional facilities is not merely its physical security, though that is formidable, but rather the specific population it was designed to manage. According to publicly available information from the Dutch Ministry of Justice and Security, the prison houses individuals convicted of organized crime, terrorism-related offenses, multiple murders, and other crimes that pose exceptional risks to public safety. These are not first-time offenders or individuals serving short sentences for minor infractions. These are criminals whose cases made national headlines, whose trials captured public attention, and whose continued detention requires constant vigilance. The institution's most infamous section is the EBI, the Extra Beveiligde Inrichting, or Extra Secured Institution. This unit within a unit represents the highest security classification in the Dutch prison system. Documented reports indicate that the EBI houses fewer than 30 individuals at any given time, prisoners considered so dangerous or so likely to escape that standard maximum security protocols are deemed insufficient. In this wing, inmates spend 23 hours per day in individual cells measuring approximately 6 square meters. Their single hour outside the cell occurs in small, individual recreation cages where they remain under constant surveillance. The EBI's existence has generated considerable controversy within the Netherlands and beyond. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and the Dutch section of the International Commission of Jurists, have published reports questioning whether the conditions constitute psychological torture. According to these documented assessments, the extreme isolation, limited human contact, and restricted movement may violate international standards regarding humane treatment of prisoners. The Dutch government maintains that these measures are necessary given the security risks posed by EBI inmates, many of whom have demonstrated violent behavior, escape attempts, or continued criminal coordination from within standard prison environments. Public records reveal that PI Vught employs approximately 400 staff members, including correctional officers, administrative personnel, psychologists, social workers, and medical professionals. The ratio of staff to inmates is significantly higher than in standard Dutch prisons, reflecting the intensive supervision required. Officers undergo specialized training in crisis intervention, de-escalation techniques, and emergency response protocols specific to managing high-risk offenders. According to available reporting, starting positions require extensive background checks, psychological evaluations, and months of training before officers are cleared to work directly with the inmate population. The physical security infrastructure at PI Vught incorporates multiple redundant systems designed to prevent escapes and maintain internal order. Perimeter walls stand several meters high, topped with razor wire and monitored by thermal imaging cameras that detect movement regardless of lighting conditions. Motion sensors, pressure-sensitive pathways, and electronic locks create layers of security that must be breached sequentially for any escape attempt to succeed. According to documented incident reports accessible through Dutch Freedom of Information channels, successful escapes from PI Vught are extraordinarily rare, with the last confirmed escape occurring decades ago. Yet despite its formidable reputation, PI Vught is not merely a warehouse for dangerous individuals. Dutch correctional philosophy, even at maximum security levels, maintains an emphasis on rehabilitation and eventual reintegration where possible. The facility offers educational programs, vocational training, and psychological counseling, though access to these services varies significantly depending on an inmate's security classification and behavioral record. For those in the EBI, such opportunities are severely limited, with most intervention occurring through individual sessions rather than group programming. The prison's location in Vught is itself significant. The municipality has a complex relationship with the institution that defines much of its modern identity. While the prison provides substantial employment and economic activity, residents live with the constant awareness that some of the Netherlands' most dangerous criminals are housed just kilometers from their homes. According to local reporting from regional newspapers, community meetings occasionally address concerns about security, escape risks, and the psychological impact of hosting such a facility. PI Vught stands as a testament to a fundamental tension within democratic societies: how to balance the rights of individuals, even those who have committed terrible crimes, with the need to protect public safety. This prison represents the Dutch answer to that question, a place where the most dangerous are held, where freedom is restricted to its absolute minimum, and where the state exercises its most extreme power over individual liberty. The morning at PI Vught begins long before sunrise. At precisely 5:30, fluorescent lights activate automatically in cells throughout the facility, signaling the start of another day in one of Europe's most restrictive environments. 4 inmates in standard maximum security wings. This marks the beginning of a highly regimented routine designed to maintain order, minimize conflict, and provide structure to lives that have been stripped of nearly all autonomy. For those in the EBI unit, the morning brings little change to the monotony that defines their existence. According to documented reports from former correctional staff and official prison regulations available through Dutch government sources, the daily schedule varies significantly depending on security classification. In general population maximum security wings, inmates are permitted out of their cells for several hours each day, though always under strict supervision. Breakfast is delivered to cells at approximately 6:30, consisting of bread, spreads, and hot beverages prepared in the prison's central kitchen. The meals adhere to nutritional standards established by the Dutch Ministry of Justice and must accommodate religious dietary requirements and documented medical needs. By 7 in the morning, the facility is fully operational. Correctional officers conduct the first of multiple daily counts, verifying that every inmate is accounted for and that no security breaches occurred during the night shift. These counts are mandatory institutional procedures designed to immediately detect any escape attempts or unauthorized movements. Officers move through corridors with electronic tablets, scanning identification codes and visually confirming each prisoner's presence. Any discrepancy triggers immediate lockdown protocols and emergency response procedures. For inmates cleared for work assignments or educational programs, the day offers limited opportunities to leave their cells under escort. PI Vught operates several workshops where prisoners perform labor including textile work, packaging, and light manufacturing. According to Dutch correctional policy, work serves multiple purposes. It provides structure, teaches vocational skills, offers modest financial compensation, and reduces idle time that could lead to behavioral problems. Participation is not mandatory but is strongly encouraged, and good behavior in work assignments can influence parole considerations for those eligible. The prison's educational facilities, while limited compared to civilian institutions, offer basic literacy courses, language instruction, and vocational training programs. Documented reports indicate that approximately 30% of PI Vught's general population participates in some form of educational programming. For many inmates serving long sentences, these programs represent the only opportunity for personal development and future employment prospects upon release. Teachers and instructors are civilian employees who undergo security clearances and training in working within correctional environments. Physical recreation occurs in designated yards surrounded by high walls and covered by security netting designed to prevent helicopter escapes or contraband deliveries via drone. According to facility regulations, inmates in general maximum security populations receive a minimum of 1 hour of outdoor recreation daily, weather permitting. These recreation periods are carefully scheduled to prevent mixing of rival gang members or individuals with documented conflicts. Officers maintain constant observation from elevated guard towers equipped with communication systems that can summon rapid response teams within seconds. The visiting system at PI Vught is among the most restrictive in the Dutch correctional system. Public records indicate that visits must be approved in advance, with all visitors subjected to background checks and security screening. Visitors pass through metal detectors, surrender personal belongings to secure lockers, and may be subject to searches before entering visiting areas. Visits occur in supervised rooms where inmates and visitors are separated by transparent barriers, communicating through telephone handsets. Physical contact is not permitted except in rare circumstances and only with prior authorization based on security assessments and inmate behavior records. Communication with the outside world is heavily monitored and restricted. According to documented prison policies, all telephone calls are recorded and subject to review by security staff. Letters are opened, inspected, and screened for contraband or coded messages before delivery. Email access, where available, operates through secure prison systems that log all correspondence. These measures, while restrictive, are justified by correctional authorities as necessary to prevent continued criminal activity, escape planning, or witness intimidation coordinated from within the facility. Medical care at PI Vught operates under a fundamentally different model than civilian healthcare. The facility maintains an on-site medical unit staffed by healthcare professionals employed by the prison system. According to Dutch correctional healthcare standards, inmates are entitled to medical treatment equivalent to that available to the general population, though delivery occurs within the constraints of the security environment. Serious medical emergencies may result in transfer to civilian hospitals, though such transfers require extensive security measures including armed escorts and sometimes entire hospital wings being temporarily secured. Mental health services represent a critical but challenging aspect of operations at PI Vught. Documented research on prison psychology indicates that incarceration, particularly long-term maximum security detention, creates significant psychological stress even for the most hardened criminals. The facility employs psychologists and psychiatric professionals who conduct assessments, provide counseling, and monitor for signs of acute mental health crises. However, according to reports from mental health advocacy organizations, the resources available are often insufficient given the complex needs of a population that includes individuals with severe personality disorders, trauma histories, and emerging psychiatric conditions exacerbated by confinement. The afternoon brings continuation of morning routines, work assignments, education sessions, and brief recreation periods, all operating within strict time blocks that minimize prisoner movement and potential security incidents. Lunch is served around noon, followed by an afternoon count at approximately 2 o'clock. Dinner arrives at 5 in the evening, with final lockdown occurring by 7 or 8 o'clock depending on the specific wing and security classification. Evening hours offer limited programming. Some inmates have access to television in their cells, with programming limited to approved channels that exclude certain content deemed security risks. Reading materials are available through a prison library, though books are screened for inappropriate content and cannot contain detailed information about security systems, weapons, or escape techniques. For many inmates, evening hours pass in solitude, lying on narrow beds in sparse cells, counting the days until parole hearings that may never result in release. Behind every cell door at PI Vught exists a human story, though many are stories the public would prefer to forget. These are the narratives of individuals who committed acts that shattered lives, destroyed families, and violated the fundamental social contract that holds civilized society together. Yet within the concrete and steel of maximum security, questions emerge that transcend simple concepts of punishment and containment. What happens to human beings when subjected to years or decades of extreme isolation? Can rehabilitation occur in environments designed primarily for control? And does the Dutch approach to its most dangerous criminals achieve justice, or does it create new problems while solving others? Public records reveal that PI Vught has housed some of the Netherlands' most notorious criminals. According to documented court cases and media reports, the facility has held individuals convicted of terrorism-related offenses, including those connected to international extremist networks. These cases have tested the Dutch correctional system's capacity to manage ideological threats, individuals who may use their incarceration to radicalize others or continue coordinating activities through coded messages and recruited intermediaries. Security protocols for such inmates include monitoring of all communications, restrictions on contact with other prisoners, and intelligence sharing arrangements between prison authorities and national security agencies. The institution has also held leaders of organized criminal enterprises, individuals whose networks continued operating on the outside even as they served time within PI Vught's walls. According to reporting from Dutch investigative journalists, some crime bosses have attempted to maintain control of drug trafficking operations, coordinate violent retaliations, and manage criminal finances from behind bars. These attempts have prompted increasingly sophisticated countermeasures, including signal jamming technology to prevent unauthorized mobile phone use, analysis of visitor patterns to identify criminal associates, and cooperation with law enforcement agencies to intercept communications. Among the most controversial aspects of PI Vught remains the EBI unit and its extreme isolation protocols. Documented legal challenges have questioned whether conditions in this super-maximum security wing violate European Convention on Human Rights provisions against inhuman or degrading treatment. In 2011, the European Committee for the Prevention of Torture published a report following an inspection visit, expressing concerns about the potential psychological damage of prolonged isolation. According to this documented assessment, spending years in conditions of near-total isolation can produce symptoms including anxiety, depression, hallucinations, and cognitive deterioration. Former inmates who have been released from the EBI and spoken publicly about their experiences, though such cases are rare, describe conditions of extreme psychological hardship. According to testimony documented in Dutch media reports, the combination of isolation, constant surveillance, and lack of meaningful human contact creates an environment where time loses meaning and maintaining mental stability becomes a daily struggle. One former EBI prisoner, whose identity was protected for security reasons, described the experience to journalists as being buried alive while still breathing. Prison staff at PI Vught face their own set of challenges that rarely receive public attention. According to reports from Dutch correctional officer unions, Working in maximum security environments creates significant occupational stress. Officers must maintain constant vigilance against violence, manipulation, and security breaches while managing relationships with individuals convicted of horrific crimes. Some inmates are sophisticated manipulators who attempt to exploit any perceived weakness or build relationships with staff members that could be leveraged for contraband smuggling or other security violations. Officers receive training in recognizing manipulation tactics, maintaining professional boundaries, and managing the psychological toll of prolonged exposure to a violent, hostile environment. Documented incident reports, accessible through Dutch Freedom of Information regulations, reveal that violence does occur within PI Vught, though less frequently than in many other maximum security facilities. When conflicts arise between inmates, response protocols involve immediate lockdown, deployment of specially trained crisis intervention teams, and thorough investigation to determine causes and prevent recurrence. Assaults on staff members, while relatively rare, are treated with particular seriousness and typically result in criminal charges beyond internal disciplinary measures. The question of rehabilitation within such restrictive environments remains deeply contested. According to research published by Dutch criminologists and correctional researchers, the most secure environments are inherently the least conducive to genuine rehabilitation. The skills and psychological adaptations required to survive in extreme isolation or constant surveillance are fundamentally different from those needed to successfully reintegrate into society. Critics argue that the Dutch system, despite its stated commitment to rehabilitation, has created conditions in facilities like PI Vught that may make successful reintegration nearly impossible for long-term inmates. Yet supporters of current policies argue that public safety must take precedence. According to statements from Dutch Ministry of Justice officials documented in parliamentary proceedings, individuals housed in maximum security facilities like PI Vught have demonstrated through their crimes and behavior that they pose exceptional risks. The alternative to secure detention, releasing dangerous individuals into communities or housing them in less restrictive facilities, creates unacceptable risks to public safety and undermines confidence in the justice system. The facility's existence raises philosophical questions about the nature and purpose of imprisonment. Is incarceration primarily about punishment, making offenders suffer in proportion to the harm they caused? Is it about public safety, removing dangerous individuals from society regardless of rehabilitative potential? Or should it focus on rehabilitation, attempting to transform even the most dangerous criminals into law-abiding citizens? PI Vught, in its design and operation, reflects an uneasy compromise among these competing goals, prioritizing security and containment while maintaining minimal rehabilitative programming and adhering to human rights standards that sometimes conflict with pure security imperatives. As the Netherlands continues evolving its approach to criminal justice, PI Vught remains a focal point for debates about proportionality, effectiveness, and human dignity. The prison exists in the tension between society's desire for safety and its commitment to treating even the worst offenders as human beings with inherent rights. Behind its walls, hundreds of individuals serve time measured not in months but in years and decades, their days structured by routines designed to maintain order in an environment where danger is always present. This is PI Vught, a necessary institution in the eyes of many, a troubling symbol of excessive punishment in the eyes of others, and for those who live and work within its walls, a daily reality that few outsiders can truly comprehend.